Double Dog Studios is anything you need, really. We do anything visual, three-dimensional, two-dimensional, whatever it is. And it's always kind of what we really like to do is the one-of-a-kind type stuff. We're in Houston. Houston is a really great city for my type of business. I was trained as a sculptor, but the main thing I do is build sculptural exhibits for museums, like children's museums and natural science museums. Generally, they tend to be like larger than life. A giant set of teeth seems like a really simple thing. Whenever you start talking to a dentist, there's all these angles and all these, you know, the top set is curved and the bottom set is curved. Some of the best projects for me were the giant squid, because it was something that I never would have researched, obviously, but it was a 35-foot giant squid that was just a real challenge to make. So that's what we try to do. We try to make really accurate, large, one-of-a-kind models. The latest one was actually an Absolute bottle, a giant Absolute bottle which was almost 14 feet tall, and they needed it in about 2 weeks, which is impossible, basically. The hard coating process is always the most labor-intensive part, and up until recently I've been using fiberglass, which that's 2 weeks of fiberglassing alone on a 14-foot bottle, and finishing and all that stuff. Well, I wouldn't have been able to do the job. I would have had to say, I can't do it. It's not possible to do it in 2 weeks, which would have caused problems with the client and everything. So they wouldn't have come back. Like, this is the third bottle we've done now. But there's new products now that allowed me to coat the bottle in 1 day. The new product is called Styrospray 710 by Industrial Polymers. And what it is, it's a urethane. It's basically a plastic that starts out as a liquid. You mix it up, you pour it in a hopper gun, and you just spray it over the whole surface until you get a thickness that you want. And it cures in 24 hours, and it's comparable to fiberglass. Well, first off, the bottle was cut out of, this hot wire cut out of styrofoam, big styrofoam blocks. And then it was glued together, and then it was hard coated with the 710, Styrospray 710. And then we flipped it over, and because the bottle was basically, it was a 60% cutaway of the bottle, so it would sit flat against the billboard. So we carved the inside of the back of the bottle out and set a steel armature, because this bottle was going to be coated with 1,000 coats of paint, which was going to make it weigh at least 1,000 pounds, probably more like 2,000 pounds. The armature wasn't necessary in the beginning, but it was definitely going to be necessary in the removal of the bottle from the billboard. So we made this big metal armature and set it in the back of the bottle, and then we filled all the void with an expanding urethane foam, which really grabs a hold of everything. I mean, it's like super glue. And then that had to be sealed in, so we put a plywood backing over the back of the bottle and glassed the wood onto the bottle around the edges, so it was perfectly sealed all the way around. And then flipped the bottle back over and basically did a finish coat on the face of the bottle. And that's the other really good thing about this Styrospray, is that you can finish it just like you do fiberglass. Whereas, like, whenever you fiberglass something, you have a fairly bumpy surface. And generally I use matte fiberglass, which leaves it even bumpier. So you have to go back and you have to sand it all, and then you Bondo or use body filler, a couple layers of that to make sure you get all the dips and stuff filled in, and then you do like a glaze coat over it to make sure that all the sanding marks are filled in. So it's the same process with the Styrospray 710. It's a lot quicker, because the initial surface you have is not nearly as irregular as it is with whenever you fiberglass. So there's very little filling to do if you have to do that at all. And we like to give it like a baby butt finish, is what I always call it. I mean, really, it's a no-brainer whenever you actually start to use it. It sounds a little bit like it's too good to be true, because I've actually tried a lot of products up until now, and they don't do everything you need them to do. Either they're too brittle, or they're too flexible, or they run, or they bubble, or they don't stick right, or whatever. You know, or you can't work them, you can't sand them right. We had this job. It was a gigantic volcano for a children's museum. We had to figure out a way to, obviously, to make it. So we built this armature, we covered it in wire lath, and we sprayed foam over it with we had a plural component spray unit. We sprayed the volcano up and kind of sculpted it with the foam as we were going. And then we had to hard coat it. But it was also a plural component type of a system. You had to put the liquids through these vats, and through these heaters, and it went in through these two pumps, and then, you know, down this heated line and everything, you sprayed it out, and it set up like pretty much instantly. So if you're doing small things, it just doesn't work at all, because you waste 3 times the product that you actually need just by flushing the system out. And that's what's really good about this new product, the 710, is that you can mix up as much as you want and just keep applying it and keep applying it and keep applying it. You can go half an inch thick if you wanted to. There wouldn't be any need to. Like a 1/4 inch is plenty, but there's no separation, there's plenty of working time. You only mix up what you need, and you put it into a hopper gun, which is like, it's almost a disposable gun. It's so cheap in comparison to a plural component system. And since these Absolute bottles, and since these recent projects, it's kind of like shed a whole new light on what I do. It actually makes it possible for me to continue to do my business and not be worried about my health so much, or, you know, staying up for days on end trying to finish a product in a really quick deadline. It makes it all possible.